Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you good. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Kenny Maurer, anybody that's an NBA fan is at least familiar with your face, if not your name. We've been seeing you in the NBA on the court for 36 years. Sometimes love, Kenny, sometimes hate, depending on which way the calls go. But I think everyone listening right now can probably hate the way this call went with the NBA. You were fired last fall for refusing the COVID vaccine. First, let's start with this. Why did you refuse the vaccine?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Will. I've always been a big fan of yours. I'm not always a big fan of mainstream media, but I've remained a big fan of yours. How's that? I wanted to get that out right away.
Thank you.
And I don't say that flippantly. But anyway, it was easy for me a couple years ago, Will. The NBA conveniently changed the last year of our referee's contract to say that if you don't vote in the mandate, you will not be allowed to referee in the NBA. So I went to a vote of 73 referees, men and women, and it was voted in 56, I think, to 17 or whatever. So the 17 of us did not want to take the vaccine. We were hearing a lot of the same things that you've heard and so many other people have heard. We didn't know a lot about it, but the NBA then offered us a religious and medical exemption, which the ones that wanted to move forward without taking the vaccine, we all chose to take a religious exemption, and the NBA denied every one of them. So a couple of years ago, Will, it was easy for me. I've been a Christian my whole life. I've practiced the Catholic faith, but I've been a Christian my whole life, and I just didn't believe in aborted fetal cells. I didn't believe in changing one's DNA through the mRNA. I just didn't believe in that. I just didn't want to do that. And so my wife and I sat down, and I'm not saying it was an easy decision, Will, but it was one that I don't regret. And I would do the same thing again. Because of my religious beliefs, I chose not to take the vaccine. And then 2 years later, the world's gone upside down, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that.
It's not important to me, Kenny, why you declined the vaccine. I think every single individual should have the right to choose their own medical path, regardless of their reasoning. But the NBA required you to put forward a reason. They required you to submit a religious exemption. And you just laid out part of your reasoning to satisfy that religious exemption. You said you didn't believe in using aborted fetal cells and tissue to develop the vaccine. I've seen that you've been fact-checked on that from places like Sports Illustrated. I think the fact checked in and of themselves are somewhat contradictory in that they say there was no fetal tissue used in the vaccine, but they were used in the development, in the testing phase of the vaccine. The fact check then goes on to say there's all kinds of medicines that use a similar process. What do you say to that? I mean, they would say you need to, these fact checkers have said, did you offer a similar complaint when it came to ibuprofens or acetaminophen or any others that might have used that in the same developmental phase of a medicine?
Well, first of all, Will, I've heard all of this about 150 times, so that's fine. I've always said, Will, if you want to check with the so-called fact checkers, I've always said in the development and or manufacturing of the vaccine. So let's make that very clear. Now, you can go check the ingredients of your ivermectin and your ibuprofen, and you'll find that the ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine do not have aborted fetal cells or mRNA in them. So go back to your fact checkers and say, you know what, first of all, I did take ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, and I can show them the data that the NIH and the CDC is now saying about ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine too. But again, that's not the issue. That has nothing to do with what you and I are talking about. And you're right. Later on in the interview, I would have said, this is not about politics, but other people are making it political. My employer is making it political. It's about them offering me a religious exemption. And it really doesn't matter, Will, what you think or the fact checkers think or anybody else thinks. That's my religious belief. I stand by my religious belief. And everybody in this country should be allowed to practice their religion and their medical beliefs. I'm for freedom. I'm for freedom of both. And I was denied both.
I totally agree. It's interesting. Were I running the NBA or anyone who is applying for an exemption, wouldn't consider myself worthy of a seat to consider your religious authenticity of your claim. I also wouldn't even tie it to your religious beliefs. I would just say you're a free man who can choose what's injected into his body, and your employment should not be predicated on that type of mandate. Do you think, Kenny, do you know what is the current state of the NBA? Like, what does a ref now, or a player for that matter, have to satisfy? Have they been required to keep up with every single booster? What is required of someone involved with the NBA?
That's a great question, Will. I'm glad you asked it. Well, first of all, everybody was mandated to take the vaccine. And then before the end of, all these years are going by now, but by the end of the 2021 season, the 21-22 season, you had to be mandated with the vaccine and booster in order to work the playoffs. Well, then the 7-year contract that I talk about, there is no mention of any mandate to take a vaccine in the new 7-year deal that was signed last October. So again, I haven't been privy to a lot of the ins and outs of what's going on legally. I do still talk to a few people, and because of the lawsuit, I'm very privy to what's going on as far as contracts are concerned. But right now, there is no mandate for players. Well, there's no mandate for anyone in the arena. There's no mandate for referees. But yet I just found out that they mandated on the application for all new referees that wanted to attend summer camp this past year that they had to be vaccinated and boosted in order to attend summer camp. These young referees that are trying to get a job in the NBA, even though they say in our contract it's not mandated, they're saying that these young referees still have to be mandated and boosted in order to go to summer camp. So it's very confusing. It's very conflicting. It's very hypocritical as far as I'm concerned. So I hope I'm answering your question. According to the contract, there's no more mandates to take the vaccine, but yet new hires they're making sure that they were vaccinated and boosted. So if there's no more mandates, then I should be able to return to work, right?
You would think. And I would also be curious, and I don't know if it's laid out in the contract, what does it mean to be boosted? The Biden administration is talking about a new booster this coming fall. So is an NBA referee, in order to maintain employment, required to keep up with every new booster that is issued?
That's a great question. Well, I don't know. I believe they just finished their camp. It's a camp that's held with all the referees, management, in New York at the beginning of every season to take physicals, et cetera, new rules. And to the best of my knowledge, there was no talk of any mandate. There was no talk of any new booster that each referee was going to be mandated to take at the physical. So that's all I know. I mean, I don't know. We're going to find out a lot of information. Discovery is moving forward. Depositions are on their way, and we're going to be deposing a lot of NBA people, both medical and, all the big boys in the league office. So we'll find out. We're going to ask all those same questions, and I'd love to come back and tell you because I'm anxious to hear the same thing. But they've always been so up in the air from the very beginning. First of all, they weren't going to mandate. Then they were. Then they weren't. The players, as you well know, were never mandated. The players in the NFL were never mandated. Major League Baseball players were never mandated. NFL referees were never mandated, and Major League Baseball umpires were never mandated. But because our NBA referee, our union, so weak, wanted to make themselves, in good terms with the NBA office, decided that, we're gonna push forward this contract because this is what our employer wants to do. 2 years ago, I would have said and did say, because I was still on staff, have the players mandated? Have they been mandated? The answer was no. Well, 2 weeks before the season, what were they going to do? Well, if we didn't sign the contract, were they going to go out and get 73 referees? So, I don't know why we felt it necessary to mandate this vaccine. Again, I come back to what you said so eloquently. No one should be mandated to take a vaccine in their arm if they don't want to. If you want to, I think it's fine. I will still meet with you, have lunch with you, be your friend. I don't judge people on whether or not they want to take the vaccine. I don't judge people on what religion they want to belong to. I don't care if it's Hindu or Protestant or Catholic, but people, again, should be allowed to take part in whatever religion or medical practice that they want.
Yeah, we've had Jonathan Isaac, NBA player who famously has refused the vaccine on this program. I didn't realize until you just laid it out that not only were players not mandated, but every other umpire and referee union in other professional sports were not required to mandate. What an indictment of your union leadership.
Well, I've said that, and I'm sure I'm not held in great esteem right now, but I'll say it again. They're very weak. the lawyers are very weak. And I kept saying, are you representing the referees? Or are you working with the NBA? Again, hockey referees were the only other professional referee that had to because of Canada. Canada was so vigilant on making everybody take back then. Again, a lot of people forget, Will, what went on 2 years ago. Now all they want to do is they want to push it under the rug. Let's go. Let's move forward. Everything's hokey dokey and everything's great. And that's just not, we have to go back and look at what took place. Why did it take place? Why did the NBA do this? Why? I mean, why were they so vigilant on making everybody, what was their end goal? Why? I mean, do they not know that people have suffered and died from this? What are they trying to accomplish here? But again, that's why I'm going to court. I had two choices, Will. I could either just go off into the sunset, or I could get a lawyer, and three of us are suing them in federal court.
Well, that's why I asked you about the continued mandate under a regime of boosters, because the response, I imagine, was and will be to you that it was required to maintain some type of safety protocol for everybody involved in the NBA. But that safety protocol requires you to believe that the vaccine offered safety. And if you don't continue with the booster regime, you're admitting that the vaccine wasn't the safety, prophylactic that you pretended it to be, that it didn't work. And then therefore, to answer your question, Kenny, about why they did it in that moment in time, therefore it wasn't about safety, it wasn't about science, it was giving in to this public hysteria at the time, at the moment. I mean, that's my guess. That's my answer for the reasoning of the NBA. Simply, if I had Mark Cuban on, it would simply be, he would dress it up in some type of interesting language, but it would simply be to simply go along to get along, to give in to the public panic.
I agree with you. And let me take it one step further. First of all, the NBA doesn't do anything that isn't, money orientated. You mean to tell me that, the NBA was just going to do this without being compensated whatsoever? We know the NFL was compensated. We like to find out whether the NBA was as well. But let's take it one step further. First of all, safety and health has nothing to do with your religious convictions. That's number one. I believe your religious convictions override anything to do with safety and health. There's many people that have died for their religions, as far as, or many people coming over. Like I say, there's a quote that I don't have with me right now, but people came over on the Mayflower, and their religious beliefs, were far surpassed anything to do with safety and health. But let me take it one step further, Will. Let me ask you this question, and I would beg you to try to answer it. If it was all about safety and health, why didn't they mandate the players?
Right. No, I can't answer that question.
And another thing, no, you can't. What they did was they mandated the people at the table. They mandated journalism people like yourself that would sit at courtside. They mandated the fans. They mandated the coaches. They mandated the referee. They mandated everybody to protect the product, but they never mandated the product to protect the people. Why? And again, that just leads to, if you're going to go down safety and health with me, boy, I tell you, when Dr. McCullough, and Dr. Northrup and Dr. Cole, when they all show up in the courtroom, we'll love to talk about safety and health with you. They're more than willing to talk about safety and health if the NBA wants to go down that road. But the point is that my religious convictions said that this had, they used aborted fetal cells in the development and or manufacturing. Okay, they use it, and the horrific harvesting of these cells that they use. I'm just plain not for that. So my religious beliefs, and they offered the religious exemption, Will. I didn't ask for it. They offered it. And then they denied everyone. And I'm trying to figure out, on what grounds did you deny my religious exemption? The fact that I took ivermectin? What does that have to do, Will, with my religious beliefs? The fact that they're saying that it didn't have yes, it did have aborted fetal cells in the development and or manufacturing. So those are the two reasons they denied my religious exemption, and we just don't feel that's justified. You're not allowed by law, by Constitution, to deny one's religious beliefs.
And I believe, Kenny, that have you already been through a few depositions with the NBA?
No, depositions are starting, as a matter of fact, this month.
Well, I believe I've read about the exchanges between the NBA or its attorneys and maybe other referees where they've pursued these two lines of argument with you. One, that the Pope, and you were Catholic, I believe I don't know if you have converted to Baptist, or I believe you submitted a letter from a Baptist preacher certifying your genuine religious belief, but they pointed to the Pope embracing the vaccine. That's one line of argument. Is that correct?
Well, first of all, did you see the entire quote, Will? Or are you only taking the one sentence snippet that all of you, all the people that you're relating to? Did you? I have the entire 2-page statement made by the Pope. That will be read in my deposition. Because
well, but
if
it would also occur to me that the Pope doesn't absolve you of your religious belief. I wouldn't think. I'm not a Catholic, Kenny, but I mean, I may not have a full quote, but I also would find it unnecessary in that the easy response to that, I would think, would be, that's good for the Pope, but it's not right for my religious belief. You're
absolutely right, Will. You took the words out of my mouth. First of all, the Pope is a human being. And, I may respect the Pope, but I don't always agree on everything that the Pope has to say. First of all, I'm a Christian. I practice Catholic. I've been a Catholic my life, but I'm a Christian. And I don't think that there's anything in the Bible that says anything about, aborted fetal cells being allowed in one's, one's thinking as far as whether or not I should be inserting either a vaccine or something into my body that has, dead fetal tissue in it or the developing of. But you're right, the Pope doesn't make. And then they asked me the same question, Will, and I said to this, I said, back in World War II, Will, a lot of beautiful Jewish people were slaughtered by the Germans. And it's common knowledge now that the Vatican knew what was going on and didn't do a thing about it. Do you, Will, agree with the Pope's stance at that time? Just say yes or no.
No.
Now let me talk to you about the Pope in the 1980s, when all the priests were molesting young children. And the Pope did not punish one priest, but rather move priests around. Will, do you agree with the Pope's stance in the 1980s?
No, and that therefore does not mean an endorsement by the Pope defines religious belief, to your point.
You're exactly right. I'm agreeing with you 100%. And yes, you're saying the exact thing I am. And I try to tell the people, don't give me one quote that was taken out of context by a Pope. First of all, I don't agree with that on his stances. And I can give you quotes by 16 cardinals that came out and totally, were appalled by what he had said. But again, it was just part of the quote. He goes into moral and ethics about the way you feel morally and ethically about this vaccine. And if you feel this way, you should not be taken. There's more to that quote than you think. It's just the naysayers and the people. But again, the Pope can believe whatever he wants, and other people can believe whatever they want, but it really doesn't matter, Will. That's not what I believe, and that's not my religious conviction, and no one's going to change my religious beliefs, not the NBA, not anybody. Everybody can have their opinions, and I respect all of their opinions, but I ask people to respect mine.
And so the second line of argument, Kenny, that they're going to try to make, I imagine, in this case for you, is that your religious belief is not genuine. And I wish them the best of luck in that. But they're trying to make the argument that your belief is somehow political or medical, as though those are insufficient. But they're going to try to make the argument that your religious belief isn't genuine. And that goes to what I said earlier. They're going to try to point out hypocrisy. And they are going to say, do you take X medicine, Kenny? Whatever that medicine may be. Again, I've read, I don't know for a fact, but simple ibuprofens, right? Pain relievers might use fetal tissue in their developmental stage. Might not be in the Advil that you take over the counter, but in the development of that Advil along its way, it used fetal tissue. And they'll say to you, Kenny, do you take Advil? And they're going to attempt to point to that hypocrisy as evidence that your religious belief is not genuine.
I understand. I'm well aware of that. Very good. But first of all, please show me where aborted fetal cells were in the development or manufacture of Advil. And you know what? I don't believe that's the case. But if it is, I won't take Advil. I will knowingly not take anything. And again, I like to ask the question: who's going to determine my religious beliefs in the NBA? Will, for almost 40 years that I refereed, they didn't know if I went to church on Sunday. They didn't know if I was married in a Catholic church. They didn't know if I took communion. They didn't know if I received my, they didn't know anything. They didn't know anything about my Catholic faith or my Christian faith for 40 years. Now, all of a sudden, they're going to judge me on my Catholic faith. Right. Well, I welcome those questions, Will. I really do. And I really do. In fact, I have several Jewish. In fact, my lawyer is one of my favorite people in the world. He's Jewish. But I had a Jewish lawyer interview me about my Christian faith. Okay, well, we have a lot of questions for him in the deposition too. He's going to be deposed too.
Well, I think it's fascinating that they cast themselves in the seat of a religious purity test. I mean, if you're going to point to hypocrisy as whether or not a belief is held genuinely, boy, you got the line runs out the door and around the world of hypocrisy or failing to live the purest on whether or not you are truly you have true convictions.
You are so right, and you're right. We're both smiling. Again, are we all sinners? Yes. Are we all, children of God? Yes. Do we all make mistakes? Yes. I really don't care. I believe in our Lord Jesus Christ. I believe in the ever after. I believe in eternity. I try to live a good life. Do I make mistakes? Yes. Have I sworn a few times in my life? Yes. Have I? Yes. I'm not perfect.
No, come on,
but
Kenny. Really?
No one's
on the court?
Yeah. No. Well, no. I went right back at them the way they came at me, and I have great respect for the players, and that was all part of the game. And I'm friendly with so many of them that I refereed, and I still love the sport. Will, I love the NBA. I love the players and the game and the thought of refereeing 10 of the greatest athletes in the world and some of the coaches I remain friends with. I just don't agree with the policy that the NBA has taken with religion. I mean, whatever you want to do business-wise, whatever you want to take on with, foreign this or foreign that, or whatever you want to do with, with businesses within the United States, that's fine. But I mean, I just don't think the NBA should be getting involved with. And Will, there's only 3 of us. It started out with 17, but then there came down to 5. One went the arbitration process. Leo Richardson, a good friend of mine, and he lost. My lawyer said he was going to lose. It was a union lawyer, it was an NBA lawyer, and it was an arbitrator that was hired by the NBA. Well, how'd you think his arbitration was going to go? 2-1. And there's a minor league referee who they bought out, a wonderful young man named David Walker, who, could have been an NBA referee. But there's 3 of us: Mark Ayat, Jason Phillips, and myself. And it's been very difficult over the 2 years. I mean, my wife and I see a counselor. I mean, my wife she cries. I feel terrible with putting your family. People have no idea, Will, what this is like unless you've actually gone through it. I applaud you and I thank you for allowing me just to talk like this. But people have no idea, and I sometimes think they don't care. But I've been doing a lot of podcasts. I took part in an event the other day, a week ago, I spoke in front of almost 10,000 people, and there's a lot of people, Will, that really just want our lives back and want to be allowed our freedoms, and that's what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for myself and a lot of other people who can't do it.
I'm really sorry to hear the way that's taken a toll, an obvious toll that any one of us should be able to put ourselves in the seat or the shoes of on you and your family. Yeah, it must give you some hope that you've seen some victories out there. I believe it was like New York State nurses. There's been some victories out there of people who've been reinstated, got back pay on this fight for medical or religious freedom. There's got to be some hope there for you.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, when I speak, I've become friends with Senator Jensen here from Minnesota too. We speak a lot about that. Yeah, there's been, the Air Force people, in New York, they all won. There's policemen that have won. There's teachers that have won. The the court reporters in the courts in New York have won. Like you said, the nurses just won. I mean, it's phenomenal, all of these cases. But people will they don't have the money. I'm borrowing money, I mean, that's okay. So many friends are helping support me because they want to push what's going on here. But people can't do that. They don't have the funds, or they don't have the wherewithal, or the great attorney that I have. So there's a lot of people that lost their jobs, lost their businesses, lost their life, lost their livelihoods. So I just think it's wrong. Why? Because of a vaccine that if somebody doesn't choose to put it in their arm because of either a religious or medical belief, then you're chastised? I don't get it, Will. I don't know where we're going in this world, but I'm not going to allow it. My wife and I are not going to change our philosophies on life, and I never have for 40 years. And I've been the same way for 40 years, Will. If the NBA wants to think I've changed, let them come at me. I'm ready for it.
On the note of that money in your fight, I know you have a Give, Send, Go that you're asking people to help in your fight with the NBA. You want to tell us about that Give, Send, Go?
Well, first of all, thank you again. That's nice of you to bring that up. Yes, I don't believe in GoFundMe, and I don't like the way they've taken just funds away from people because they didn't like their narrative. I want nothing to do with GoFundMe, but Give, Send, Go is partnered by a lot of religious groups, and So Senator Johnson, as a matter of fact, talked to me about that. And what I decided to do, Will, is I said, anybody that gives, and I've been so humbled by the comments on this, you can go down and read what people have said when some people give $5, $10, $100, $50, $20, $500. And then they give the most wonderful comments that, humble you to your knees. And it's just how they want me to keep this fight up. And that's what keeps me going. But I agreed that whatever money I receive from this Give, Send, Go, whatever I got, Will, and whatever I won as a result, I'm going to win this case. And when I win, whatever I get back that I paid out from this Give, Send, Go, I'm going to pay it back. I'll show you right online where it's going. I'm going to give it to other people that need it I have a friend of mine that's got a clinic down in Texas that treats almost 50,000 adversely affected, people because of the vaccine. I'm going to give money to him. I'm going to give money to Wisconsin. There's a group of people at Wisconsin Unified for Freedom. I'm going to give people to people that maybe they're lawsuits, maybe they're fighting the same thing I am. I'm not going to keep any of it, Will, but attorney's fees get a little crazy, and it's a little nuts right now, but financially, so anything that can help is great. But I promise you, I will pay it back, and I'll show you on the Give, Send, Go account where it's going.
And it's Give, Send, Go /Kenny Mauer, Mauer. I want to take you up on this opportunity that I have with you for one moment to follow up on giving it back to players. So, Kenny, I played water polo in college, okay, which has a few similarities to the NBA. And I would say it is even more subjective in its officiating than the NBA. And you may take issue with that characterization, but, can you call a foul on any given play? Can you truly see what happened? It's all happening so quickly. Water polo is tough because a lot of it's happening under the water for the referee. So the reason I bring that up is I used to watch my coach, who by most estimations, I went to Pepperdine, his name is Terry Schroeder, and by most estimations, he's the greatest American water polo player of all time. I used to watch him work the ref, right? And he would keep count as well as the game went on. Hey, you've called 10 fouls on us and 6 on them. The implication being, look, this is a subjective game and you're not even. My question for you is, in a game where there is a lot of gray area, who's the best at working the ref, making a logical or passionate argument that gets your attention versus turning you off? And I would have to guess, Kenny, there is some, I don't want to call it personal relationship, but clash of personalities in this moments that can work for or against you as a coach or a player.
Well, first of all, I want to tell you, I played water polo a couple times. You really have to be in shape to play water polo. People have no idea the shape you have to be in to play that sport, to do what you have to do constantly in water, and your feet aren't touching the bottom of the pool. I mean, it's great. You're right. It's very subjective, and I would say that the best referees are the people that know how to handle that gray area. We're human beings, and somebody that's going to come at you and complain about every call, well, it's going to go in one and out the other, and after a while, he's probably going to be given a technical foul and maybe ejected. But somebody that, I always told people, if Michael came up to me once a game and asked me about a play or said, listen, I got hit on that play, if he said it once a game, I didn't even have to look at the replay after the game. Well, I knew I missed it because he did it once, maybe a game. But if you get a player that's going to come up to you and barrage you with whatever you want to call it every other time down the floor with plays that it just goes in one or out the other. He has no credibility. I'm not listening to him because, I'm sorry, I'm not perfect. Yes, I've never refereed a game without missing a call, but I didn't miss 13 calls the last 2 minutes. I just didn't. I'm a professional, and I wouldn't be here if I missed 13 calls. So yes, I mean, talking in a professional, it's about managing people. Anybody can call a foul, Will. How do you manage people? It's very emotional. How do you manage that coach? How do you bring them back off the ledge? How do you manage that player? How do you handle them left or right? Don't be afraid to admit you made a mistake. I would say getting at the free throw line or underneath the basket or when I'm taking the ball out of bounds. Hey, come here. Listen, that last play, you're right. I missed it. I didn't see it. I didn't get a good look at it. I kicked it. I missed it. And that goes a long way with players because they make mistakes. And to show them you're human, to show them that you you're not perfect. You can miss a play. It goes a long way. And when you're a young referee, you don't get the opportunity to do that because they think you miss every play. So when you get, when you get farther along in your career, and then when you get to maybe to the level I was with experience-wise, you have a rapport with these players and these coaches. Some of the coaches I refereed them when they played.
Right.
I refereed their sons are now playing in the league. I refereed their fathers. So
right.
I mean, it's and I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of the NBA, and I'm proud of those athletes. But so no, a referee, an athlete that continues to complain to a referee isn't well respected. He isn't well taken, and you know what? He's not going to get very far. If you have a complaint, get it to the referee in the right way, and he'll probably admit he was wrong, or if he was right, he'll tell you why he was right, and that's how you build relationships. And that's all about life, isn't it? Building relationships.
I wish somebody would have explained this to Luka. I'm a huge fan of Luka, but I wish somebody would explain this to Luka.
I did. I went up to him one time in a game. I'm a big fan. I think he's a great kid. I don't know him personally, but I went up to him one time. I said, I'm going to use the word. I said, Luka, no one's listening to you. You bitch and complain at every play. And then he's wanted to talk about the play. I said, I'm not talking about the play down the court. I'm talking about during the game. You complain at everything. No one, I'm not listening to you. I don't listen to a word you say. You have no credibility with me. Why don't you get back with the greats before you, that when they complain once or twice? Nowitzki, he likes Nowitzki. Nowitzki, when Dirk complained once or twice, I listened to him because I knew he was right. But you complain at every play. I'm sorry, I'm not listening to you. You've lost me. And I said it. And Rick Carlisle was his coach at the time, and Rick's a class act. I told Rick the same thing. I said, Rick, that kid, he's got to learn what a foul and what a foul is and isn't. He said, I know, Kenny, we're working on him. So great talent, great player, but I feel the same way. The kid's just got to rein it back in, and he's got to realize that he's not getting fouled in every play. We're professionals too.
I heard this the other day, Kenny. They were talking about, some guys were talking about baseball, and they were talking about the difference between the NBA, the NHL, the NFL, and baseball. And it was really fascinating to think, do you know how many NFL coaches have been kicked out of an NFL game? I think the answer is 0. And I gotta imagine those guys are working the refs and yelling at them. And in the NBA, you guys do kick a coach out, but the truth is, it pales in comparison to what happens in baseball. I don't know the culture of the game. I mean, I do know the culture of the game, but I don't know how it got this way, that the ump in baseball is in a position where his authority to boot someone is just much more liberal than it is in other sports. I don't know if you know umpires, and I don't know what the culture is in the NBA that they tell you, hey, last resort when you kick a guy out. But baseball seems to be the outlier.
I know many baseball umpires, and again, have great respect for them. I think referees in general should do more of what Major League Baseball does. That's just my opinion. I'm old school. No, I mean, if you're going to continue to berate an umpire on a called strike right in front of him, and a lot, then they don't take anything. They don't take any, what. They don't take it. They just get and they run them. And it's well known in the league that if you cross the line with an umpire, you're going to get tossed. There is no technical foul in baseball. In our league, okay, you've got a technical foul. That's enough. Stop. Second one, you're gone. You can throw them on one, but usually it's the second technical foul that you're gone on. So, but baseball, they don't have that so-called technical foul warning, whatever the heck you want to call it. And so baseball, no, they know when they go over the line, those players and coaches are well taught as to what they can and can't say. And I can just, in some of the words that are going back and forth, or I should say, coming at the umpire, I won't repeat them here. But in basketball, it's the same. They know where the line is. They know what the magic word is. I mean, if you embarrass a referee, he should be given a tech. I would not. Hey, if I embarrass a player, I'm going to get fined. I don't know that I've ever embarrassed a player. I'm going to get fined. If they embarrass a referee, they're going to get a technical foul. And if they continue to do it, they're going to leave the arena. And I just tell players, is it worth it? Is it worth paying the money and leaving the arena and hurting your team because you didn't like? And you find out a lot of times when you get to know them, it wasn't the one call, Will. It wasn't even the 2 calls. They're human beings. They might have had an argument with their wife before they came to the arena. They might have, have trouble with the finances. They might have had a fight with a player. Who knows? But sometimes it's a job, and you bring some things on the floor, and it's difficult sometimes. Again, it's all about managing people. Many times I've said to the player, okay, what the hell's wrong today? Because it isn't the call that I just missed or didn't miss. There's something more here. What's wrong? And in my 25th, 28th, 30th year, they would tell me.
So let's go back to your case. Kenny, I appreciate you indulging me on that. It's a fun conversation, which I would love to explore more, including you can tell me at some point. You don't have to tell me today. You can tell me your favorite and least favorite players to referee. But
sure. I would.
Okay, well then tell me that right now. Yeah, who's your favorite? Who's your least favorite to referee?
Well, players, when I say least favorite, I don't always mean I don't like them personally. I mean they're so clever and they're so good and they're so. I mean, refereeing Shaq was difficult every night because we let more plays go against Shaq. Shaq got fouled more, and we didn't call them than he fouled other people because he was so big and so strong. He'd get whacked and he'd finish with a dunk, and we'd say, "Oh, that was just Shaq. He made, it's okay. Let's play on." Well, we weren't right. We were wrong. Same thing with Wilt way back when. I didn't referee Wilt. He was before my time. But Shaq was so difficult to referee. Post players like that were so difficult to referee. Elijah with his feet were so difficult to referee. And then you've got offensive players that were so like the shooters. They go up so quick. Steph Curry's difficult to referee sometimes. Fan of Steph Curry. I think he's a great kid, great young man. But I mean,
I would have to think Harden. I would have to think Harden is in that category.
Oh, he was next. Harden uses his off arm constantly. Well, you're watching the dribbler and you're watching the defender. Are you watching his off arm? Well, so I don't see him always push off with his off arm because I'm watching the dribbler and I'm watching to see if the defender reached in and was hitting him, and he's warding him off with it. So clever, so good, great player. I mean, so when I say difficult, I don't mean that there's some good and bad guys in the NBA as far as jerk-offs are concerned. But I mean, they feel the same way about referees. But as far as players are concerned, yeah, the clever ones, the good ones, the first step, did they travel? Jimmy Butler's tough to referee sometimes. The post players are tough to referees. I mean, we could have a long conversation, and I'd love to explain to you why. They're just so clever and so good that they fool us. And then the guys that flop, those are the guys I really don't like. The guys that never get touched and act like they got shot out of a cannon. That's the players. I go back and look at the videotape and said, the guy didn't even get touched, and he acts like he's dead. I mean, I think from what I understand, the NBA is going to try to be more stringent on addressing that this year. And it's not good for the game. All the European players started it when they came over from Europe. They all started that.
And your favorite, would it be what you talked about with Jordan? Was it just a guy that works with you throughout the game?
Well, the thing about Jordan is that, and I refereed his entire career, Jordan respected the game and he respected us. I mean, at least he made us feel like he respected us. I mean, I respect what you do, and I don't respect everybody in your profession, Will. I've told you that already. But I respect you, and I'm not saying that because I'm on your show. People, I'm telling you the truth. Okay, I respect your stance, and I think you're fair on both sides. I respect that. Same thing with players. You want players if players don't respect me, do you think I like them? Do you think I respect them? I'm going to referee them. I'm going to be fair with them. But some players, Michael was respectful of referees. He was the hardest working player on his team. He was the first one on the floor, the first one off the floor. He made everybody better. He got in every one of their rear ends. He was all over them, but he was very respectful of us. I mean, back then we were even allowed to get autographs once in a while. Now they want you to go through the league office. I understand. But I mean, I would go up to Michael, and I was still wet behind the ears. I was in my 5th or 8th or 10th year, and I would say, Michael, I have a charitable organization that I'm going to give to a charity. Can I have would you sign? Yes, Kenny, you send it in to me. I'll get it done. He didn't have to do that for me. He didn't know me. I wasn't like going to be refereeing him in the finals that year or anything like that. I just thought Michael was a class act. I thought he worked hard, and I respected him. There's some ones nowadays. I respect Jimmy Butler. I respect Steph Curry. I respect some of these guys. I mean, they're such great athletes. But I guess one of my favorites was Michael. He was as good as they came. He was good to us.
Well, that's fun stuff. And anytime you want to come on here and explain to me a call during the NBA season when I get mad, come April on, you're welcome to come explain to me how it was right or it was wrong. I want to return to your case, though, Kenny. The one part of your case that seems to me unconscionable, that I mean, the entire thing seems unconscionable, to be fair, but I guess the egregious cherry on top is that they're going after your. It's reported they're going after your pension. Something that you've earned over 36 years of a career. What's the rationale? How are they telling you that somehow you can't have your pension?
Well, I'm glad I can talk all about that. So I'm really glad you brought that up. Well, I think you probably already know the answer. I know everybody that I've ever discussed this with, as far as friends and family, they already know the answer. I mean, the NBA wants to break me. They want me to go away. They don't want me to fight this. They don't want bad publicity. They don't want to be asked questions. Come on, you're a smart guy. You know that already. So yes, I've got a wonderful pension that the rule said that when I was suspended for the first year, I was not allowed, you're not allowed to get your pension until you're either terminated, retire, or you die. That's what the pension says. And it's, 36, 42 pages. I could have sent it to you. I will do that the next time. I would really like to do that. You can read it. So I waited the 60 days. So then I waited the year. I wouldn't change my mind. So on October 1st of 2022, they terminated me. And by that time, I'd already had the lawyer, and we went with the EEOC first, and Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. They sat on it for almost a year, Will, didn't do a thing about it, pushed it under the rug. So then we filed a writ to sue and went to the federal courthouse, federal system on October 1st of last year. So when I was officially terminated in October, you have to wait like 60 to 90 days. I did that. In January or February, January, I think it was, I applied for my pension. It's a defined benefit pension that I had accumulated through my 36 years. So I was told by the league office via emails, I have all the emails, that I was going to receive the pension on March 1st. I was even going to meet with a dear friend of mine who was my financial advisor. I flew up to Minnesota to meet with him on that March 1st to discuss where I was going to put my money and what I was going to do, this and that. I'd never done anything like this in my life. So then I had to get a lawyer. I've got 2 lawsuits now, Will. 2 months ago, my attorney's bills were $40,000 in 1 month. And so they said that in the denial, they said, the judge may reinstate you. And my lawyer said, what does that have to do with anything? It says here that he was terminated. I mean, that he was terminated. He's allowed his pension. It doesn't matter whether the judge, what if this goes on 10 years? You mean the guy has to wait for his pension 10 years because he may be reinstated? And another thing he said was they never even gave my client the opportunity to say, okay, let's say the judge does reinstate him. He just say, I don't want another pension. I'm done. I don't want another pension. They never even gave him that opportunity. You know, and I know they're just not denying my pension because they don't want me to have the funds to continue to fight them. Plain and simple, very simple. That's it. So we've got a lawsuit. We filed a summary judgment. It's in front of the judge. It's been there for 5 weeks, and it could be ruled on today, tomorrow, the next day. But yeah, I mean, you go from respecting and loving working for a company for so many years to first it was denying my religious beliefs, and now holding off on my pension because you don't want me to have, I'm sorry, Will. That was like the final straw. There's no rationale for that. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no reason why they should be denying me my money. They just don't want me they don't want me to be able to continue this. And so, you can have your opinion. I'd love to hear it, but there's no law. You can read the entire pension and there's nowhere that says, well, if he's involved in a lawsuit and the judge may reinstate him, then we don't have, what they're saying, Will, is that any person that is terminated or retires from his job, he may come back to work for us so we don't have to give him his pension. And that's just not the law. That's just not the law.
Yeah. No,
how many people do you know that have retired and then gone back and worked for the company? How many people do you know that may have been terminated and then took another position with that same company? Many. And so I don't understand the rationale. My lawyer doesn't, and we'll see what the judge says.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be any good faith interest in bringing you back. And if you do, what will be your vaccine mandate? Kenny Maurer, this has been fascinating. We're going to stay up on your case. I hope you stay in touch with us, and I'd love to continue to talk sports with you anytime you would like. I really appreciate you sharing your story with us today.
when I get my word on that pension, let's get back and we'll talk some more of that. We'll talk some more of everything we talked about. How's that?
That sounds good. All right. Thanks, Kenny.
Will. Thanks, Will. Appreciate it.
Good stuff. Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain Podcast for full episodes right now.